Hey guys, welcome back to She Became Me podcast. I am Tina Rogers, your host, and I want to introduce you to my co-host. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves. So we will start with Ronieka.
Hi, I'm Ronieka.
Chino.
Yalonda.
And our guest today is Patricia Robertson Tate. And Patricia can say hi to our audience today.
Hello.
So today, guys, we are going to talk about, well, actually this whole month of September, we're going to be talking about spiritual connections. So we want to talk about what action steps, do we take to connect spiritually? Or, what are some formulas or some rituals or routines that people use in general? So today we're going to start with Miss Patricia, and we want to start off by asking her to share with us some of her rituals or routines and ideas that she used to connect spiritually. And maybe even how did you get connected spiritually, or how did you know that you was, when you got spiritually connected? So.
Okay, for me, how did I know when I got connected spiritually is because, my mom, she took us to church every Sunday. We didn't have a choice. We couldn't just lay in the bed and not go. We just had to go. And it just became a part of my life.
Okay.
I've been going to church probably since a baby.
Okay.
And I was a missionary actually at the age of, I was a missionary at like 12.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was going knocking on doors and, praying for the people in the nursing homes and stuff
Okay.
like that. So for me, just going to and praying for people and stuff like that. And then as I became older and I got in my teenage years, I strayed away and I got out there in the world. And I stopped going when I left my mother's home. I stopped going. And then I found out later in life that I needed to be
Right.
connected back into the church.
So what were some things that potentially may have taken you to some dark places in your life and that kind of reminded you that why it became important to get back to being connected spiritually?
Okay, so many things took me to dark places in my life. One of the things that took me, several of the things that took me to dark places was I lost 2 husbands by death in my life. And then walking out one day from my mother's house, we lived behind a park.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked out and found a guy hanging from a tree.
Wow.
So that took me to a very dark place. Then
Okay.
I went to my neighbor's house next door and found him dead. So it was just so
Yeah.
many things that took me to dark places in my life. And I knew that, and then on top of that, I lost a lot of friends that I thought, was connected to me, and
Right.
they left me. So
Right.
I knew that God was the only one, and in the midnight hours when I was crying, He was the only one that was there for me.
Yes.
And through everything that I had went through, I was strong. People was like, "How are you still so strong?"
Right.
Through all of that, and I knew it was God that kept
Right.
me anchored.
Right. Definitely, I agree with that. Okay. So, I definitely see how some of those type of things can be traumatizing,
Yes.
especially like dealing with so many deaths.
Most
Personal
definitely.
level, neighbors, and just, in general, just to see somebody hanging from a tree.
Oh, yes.
That's pretty devastating in
Yes.
itself.
Mhm.
So, you have to find your way back. So
Yes.
what do you do currently, like some of the routines or, things that you exercise or action steps that you actually take, like maybe daily or weekly, or things that you do to keep yourself strong and prayer?
So I pray every day. Every
Okay.
morning I get up. So even when I get up to use the bathroom in the
Okay.
middle of the night, I say, "Thank you, Jesus." When my feet hit the floor,
Yeah.
I say, "Thank you, Jesus," because He could take me out, 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock,
Right.
whatever. He could wipe me out. So I always say, "Thank you, Jesus." And when I leave in the morning or whatever time I start driving, the first time I get behind the wheel, I have a thing where I say, thank you, Jesus, for another day. So anybody that rides with me, you know, get in the car with me, they know I have this saying, thank you, Jesus, for another day, for waking us up and starting us on our way. I just say that when I get behind the wheel, and I say it the one time, and then that's it. So, and that's just my thing.
Some great practices that you have developed there, so.
Yeah.
I share some of those myself, definitely. As soon as I open my eyes, that's one of the first things that I think too, is say, yeah, you know, thank you, God, you know, for another day, because I'm able to wake up and I'm still here.
Right.
So, you know, because somebody didn't make it, you know, that next day.
Absolutely.
So, also I wanted to mention to our audience that Patricia is, one of the contributing authors to the book, She Became Me. And Patricia, you can tell them a little bit about, your chapter and, what's the title and some stuff like that.
Okay, my title is Better Days, and the reason why I named my title Better Days is because I have went through so much in my life, and I hid behind the shadow. I had really, really low self-esteem, and I felt like I wasn't good enough. And, you know, and now I have a girls group, I have a girls group of Patricia Pearls, and I have a boutique. I just feel like today is so much better for me.
Yes.
God has brought me through so many things, and I feel connected, you know, things that
Right.
I thought that I couldn't see my way through, you know, he kept me, and so that's where I know I'm grounded, and I feel like if you just have the faith, you know, and better days will come. So that's why I named my title Better Day, my chapter Better Days.
Okay.
What was one of the things, you said you were in a dark place, and sometimes as we're going through those journeys, it's so hard to see the end, right? We get to a point where we can finally see like, oh, I see some daylight coming, but when you're in the midst of it, what was one of the things, I know you said God, but was there any signs, you know, when you were at that darkest point where you like, okay, I know God is gonna pull me through? Was there a moment or an event that happened where when your faith was a little rattled, it just flipped, like that switch went on and you was like, yo, okay, yeah, I definitely know God got it.
Yeah, so there was a lot of events. I'm gonna tell you, so like when my mom passed on her deathbed, she was like, she told me, I'm the youngest of my mother's kids, and she had 8 of us, so we all were around her bed. And out of all of us, she told me to be Army strong. So, and I was like, why is she telling me to be Army strong, you know? And so, but it was because she knew the battles that I was gonna have to face. So I think the darkest moments and how I knew that God, those darkest moments, is because I really can't explain it. It's hard to explain what God brings you through.
Right.
And people really wouldn't know even if I did explain it, because I think what God do for you is for you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, and sometimes you explain it to people and they don't even believe you. They be like, it ain't true, you
Right,
know?
right.
So I think what he does, I can't even explain it sometimes. I just know that it was him.
Yeah.
You know, so,
I know that you mentioned your girls group that you have, and I like that term, Army Strong. How do you teach your girls to be Army Strong? What are some things that you pour into them so that they can be Army Strong as well?
I just tell the girls that, you know, no matter what, just believe in themselves, because a lot of the girls have been traumatized and they feel that everything is against them. And I tell them that they can make it, you know, and I try to hold true to what I tell them, because they have lost a lot, and I tell them to always believe in themselves, and no matter what, they have the faith, just believe and have faith that it will get better. And just believe, and no matter what have happened, just to push forward and always try to excel. And just to go forward and try not to, I'm trying to put this in a way that, like I tell them to, I don't know how I want to sum it up, but I try to tell them to basically just believe in
Oh,
themselves.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, because they have to,
Yes.
you know.
It's easier said than done, and definitely, it's almost like a situation, in your situation when you're mentoring the girls,
Mhm.
it's like a thing that you model. So
Yeah.
to model that is when they watch you is more than what you say.
Right.
To watch
yes.
you, express and share your energy and how
Mhm.
you're able to be happy.
Right.
That's proof that God is able.
Mhm.
So, because they can just watch you, knowing the things that you have overcame. So
Right.
modeling that kind of helps them anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, they'll realize that you are still planting seeds
Mhm.
that will grow later, so.
Mhm.
Patricia, what do you think are some of the things that you would tell? So you obviously wrote a letter to your younger self. But when
Mhm.
you think about the things that you experienced, seeing someone hanging from a tree,
Mhm.
and we're in the midst of one of the most violent
Mhm.
times that I know I've experienced in my
Right.
lifetime, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Mhm.
Thinking back to some of the things that you experienced, and how does that play out in how you're working with the girls and
Mhm.
other young people in your life?
Mhm. I would just say, you know, hold on, you know, just be strong, just continue to pray, you know, just, you gotta press forward, pray, and, put, you know, store things up, because you just don't know what's gonna happen now from day to day. You know, a lot of these kids are still running around, they don't believe, they don't have the faith, they don't think this is real, and it is. In fact, a lot of the girls don't think it's real. I'm trying to tell them, you know, this pandemic, this things that's going on in the world, it's real. So, you know, you have to have the faith, you have to start storing things up, because we don't know, you know, what's gonna happen from day to day.
Right.
That's
Definitely.
good, thank you.
You talked about your girls group. Do you have any other personal projects that you're working on besides the girls group?
Yeah, one of the projects that I'm working on now is we're gonna do a walk. And then the walk is, the girls group, and it's with the Phelan football team, the Phelan, so it is called, Shadow Mount, what's the name of the, Bring 'em out,
Bring 'em out,
bring 'em
yeah, I
out,
think
oh
I
Lord,
seen
I
that.
forgot the name, yeah,
Yeah.
so anyway, bring 'em out, let 'em shout.
Right, right.
And we're gonna be walking for Stop the Violence, and I feel the reason why we're doing that is because so many, adults and stuff is walking, and so many faith leaders and everything is walking for Stop the Violence, but I feel like the youth need to lead, because the youth is killing the youth, and the youth is scared to talk. And I think if the youth get out there and walk, and if we can get more youth engaged into walking, and just, you know, if we can invite youth from the different churches, from the different organizations, and get them all out there, then maybe they can start, you know, talking and stuff, because they have a fear now that they don't wanna tell who did what, and we have to break the silence, because if not, then the kids they're gonna keep knocking off each other and not telling, and we're tired of the parents crying, and the sisters and brothers, you know, losing other sisters and brothers, so it's time that the youth take the lead and walk to stop the violence.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so, what we like to do, with, you, Patricia, is we do a thing called She Mail. So we will have another guest coming on shortly, but we'd like to share, at least one of the comments with you while you're with us, and maybe get your opinion, you can weigh in on it. So we're gonna do, a She Mail question right now,
All right.
and, we'll get your, perspective on it as well.
Okay.
So I'm going, this is, oh yeah, and by the way, for our audience, continue to send these in, comments, concerns, and that's where we get our email from. So go to shebecameme2020@gmail.com and send me your comments, concerns, and then you will get to maybe hear your question on the email. So I'm gonna pull one out, let's see what we got, and then we'll give you guys our opinion. So, just what we were talking about. Look at that. Parenting Black young men in this society and teaching them how to be men. What is your thoughts on that? So we was just, that was a great coincidence. Yeah, my thought is, for me, because I am the mother of 4 sons. My sons at this point are 26 to 36. I would like to say that they're out the woods, but I can't really say that. It used to be between the ages of 15 to 25. It's for Black males that you would think, though, they made it. At 25, a Black male is considered an OG because you're not in prison, you're not dead, and if you don't have a felony, so now you feel like you made it. But my opinion of that is, find them something to connect to. I connected my kids to sports. Sports give a variety of things. They help build character. And I didn't really care. You didn't have to be the star of the team. You could have been a water boy. You could have been a scorekeeper. You just take a position. So if it's not sports, you could play chess. You could be in the choir. You have to find something for them to connect to help identify themselves. So whatever that thing is, whatever you can find that they're into, just kind of make them do that and be with like-minded people. That's my, opinion of parenting. Some things you should do, for Black males in this time. Yeah.
And during this time, I'm a mother of, I have 2 boys, one 15 and one 21, and keeping them connected, that's a great thing. But I find myself even now, and even more now, just teaching them with all of the things that are going on in our world, just teaching them just things to, like, what if, like, we're always having conversation of like the what if scenarios.
Right.
And preparing them for, if they are pulled over by police, or if they are harassed, or if they are, just caught up in this race game that's going on right now. So I find myself a lot just talking to them, and preparing them just in case if one of these things happen to them, just trying to prepare them for those times, because right now, it just makes me tight in the chest because of all of the craziness that's going on in this world. And then it's just like, it's just another one. But then you turn on the news and then it's another one and another one. And each time it seems like it's getting closer and closer to home. And so, and not only for our boys, but and for girls too. So it's just right now, we're living in a time where we have to stay prayed up, and we have to teach our children how to turn, to prayer, because it's just a lot that's going on that could distract them from being connected, and spiritually in some way.
And fall into the negative.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. I have been working with youth, particularly not having had a son, but several cousins, working with youth in the field. I think that it is so hard to ensure that you have to instill hope in youth, period, but males at a time when things just seem like everything is against them. I try to I always felt that tough love was necessary for boys, so I always felt challenged. Like, if I would have ever had a son, raising a girl has just been different, but I just feel like God chose me to raise a daughter and not a son, because I feel like, I just don't know if I would have the strength to just ensure that they're not worried, just that they would be safe and give them everything that they need. I think making sure that you put positive men, you know, whether the fathers are in their lives, but I think it takes a village of men to encourage strong boys into manhood.
Yeah.
And so I think that's necessary.
Yeah.
Ladies
Yeah.
first.
Okay, yes, I have a 14-year-old son, and I just think that it's imperative that you listen to the boys now, because they need us. And I just keep him grounded in prayer. I keep him in sports. He raps, he likes to do music. He got a couple songs out now, that's out on the musical outlet, so he's always in the studio. When he's not doing it, and he plays football, he does basketball, and of course he plays games, but you have to listen to them, because a lot of times they be trying to say things, and a lot of parents don't have time to listen.
Right.
In today's age, you have to listen, and you have to, because if not, time is moving so fast, and if you don't listen, the streets is gonna grab them up, and, so.
Yeah. Definitely.
We have to stay connected.
I would say if there ever was a time to be real with your kids, like to really pull back the veil of reality, now is that time. I think a lot of the obstacles and hurdles that we try to protect our kids from are now front and center, and being seen and being talked about. So I think now is really just that best opportune time to have a real conversation, a real invested conversation, and say, hey, look, this is the world that you are walking into. And these are the things that I am trying to prepare you for. These are the tools that I can give you. These are some other tools that we're gonna have to get you connected to. People we gotta get you connected to, establishments and different things of that nature. And then reinforcing that spiritual connection to a higher power, because again, they are going to fall on a time where their strength and their ability and the people around them won't be enough to pull them up. So again, just this, like I said, ultimately being able to have that real conversation now.
Okay, well, thanks guys, for joining us on the portion of our show with Patricia. So we're gonna have another guest come in now. So I wanna thank Patricia for coming out and joining us, and and sharing your thoughts of how you connect, and being candid with our audience, and maybe there will be some things that we can share with you guys that you could start doing based on what we're sharing here today. So
Now, how does a mom watching or a dad watching who may want their young lady to participate in your program, how do they get a hold of you?
We have a website. They can call me at 317-772-9085, or they can go to the website, Patricia Pearl's website. It's patriciapearls.org.
Wonderful, thank you.
okay, all righty. So we will see you later. Another day, Patricia.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So our next guest now, we're gonna have Lentina Pettis. And Lentina Pettis is also a contributing author to She Became Me. Welcome, Lentina. Glad to see you again.
Hello. Welcome.
So we can start off, because I just introduced and told our audience that you were one of the contributing authors, so you can kind of start us off with your chapter in the book. And then I know you got a lot to tell us about how you connect spiritually. This woman right here, she got a lot of spiritual stuff to share with you guys. So I'm just gonna say that. But go ahead, Lentina.
Okay, so my chapter in the book was There is a Hope and a Future. And I chose that because during one of the darkest moments in my childhood, it was being a victim of being sexually molested by my parent, my father. So I am a victim of incest, but now a survivor.
Right.
So so I'm an overcomer, so I use that chapter to even talk about incest and talk about sexual abuse, because I feel like we still, in our culture, in Black culture, we don't talk about it.
That's
Right, right.
And we get uncomfortable with it, and so I thought that my chapter would be a way to bring awareness to sexual abuse in families and households
Yeah,
and by
yeah.
people that we know.
Yes.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest things for me, and it's really, really allowed me to understand my spiritual journey
Yeah.
in a deeper way than I think how we think about it.
Right,
So
right.
we all have different ways that we determine what our spirituality looks like, or
Right.
what religion looks like. But for me, it's not even about religion, it's not about rituals, it's about the relationship and how it transforms the individual.
Okay. So when did you first realize you were connected spiritually?
I realized at a young age that I was connected, just like Patricia. I was raised in church. I accepted Christ when I was in 3rd grade, so talking about 9 years old, I
Right.
realized spiritual things. I realized the church part of it. I realized, you know, if you go to church and you read your Bible and you learn these scriptures, that all these good things are supposed to happen. But then as I got older, I realized that it was deeper than
Right.
just all these good things.
Right, right.
And that even outward appearances and works and things that people were doing does not qualify someone to say that they've made it or they understand it completely. Because as you grow in the Word and you grow spiritually, you understand that a lot of it's about making mistakes and learning from them and gaining wisdom and overcoming things. So as a believer, it's just not always about the material or tangible things that we think that's what makes us. I got my degree, so I'm doing good. I got this great job, I'm doing good. I make 6 figures, I'm doing great. I'm on top of the world now. Yeah, you're on top of the world because those are worldly things, but spiritual things have nothing to do with all those tangible things, because you may not be able to tap into anything spiritual. It can still have all the tangible things. So that is something that I have learned, and something that I stand on. I'll always look for everything to be good, for it to be spiritual or have an understanding of what's going on around me.
Yeah, definitely. Just to piggyback off of what you said, because to me, to find joy and how I define joy, definitely, I talk a lot about the superficial things. They will never bring you joy. They can make you comfortable, but to truly start searching for joy, you have to go, beneath the surface and go past that. You have to become spiritually connected. So, to find that type of joy. I call it magic. It's my magic. It is my ability to build and maintain my joy. And I call it, it's magical when you can figure out how to do that. So, yeah, so what are some of the other spiritual things that you work on? I know you have, is it like a women's ministry, or do you do like a group? Or?
I have it's a multifaceted type of ministry. It's many
Okay.
things, because later down, I'm 40, so in my 30s, I was introduced to prophetic dance and movement,
Okay.
and that's something that I use for worship and going deeper into my understanding of worship and even scripturally based what worship looks like. So I started to make symbolic tools for the worshipers and the dancers, and that's where Paradigm Empowerment was birthed.
Okay.
But as God gave me the vision, then things started changing. Then it became about my first book that I wrote, Wait, Don't Throw in the Towel. It's just about understanding the biblical foundation of marriage. But then after I wrote it and people started reading it, it was more people who weren't even married that loved the book, and they were like, okay, I really understand what marriage is about now, so I'm gonna chill.
Right.
I'm gonna step back. And so it grew from the symbolic worship to now marriage and family and singleness and life and identity. And then she became me came, so that added to it. And then now I'm going back to school to become a licensed therapist, and then that's where There's a Hope in the Future comes from, because it's like now I want to deal with sexual abuse, I want to deal with people who have sexual issues. I want to make sure that everybody's aware that therapy is there, but
Yes.
I really want to target my people. I'm a Black woman, and I'm proud to be a Black woman, and I want to take care of my people, my community. So this is one way that I feel like spiritually too, I'm walking into my purpose, because my vision is to be unique and just be a standout therapist, and just have some type of way that I'm able to connect with Black families, Black children, have interventions with everybody. Like, we just gonna sit out and we gonna talk to the black sheeps of the family, we gonna talk to the generational curse breakers of the family, and we just gonna have these nice, healthy conversations about things without having to have our own personal perceptions or emotions involved in them. And that's one of the things my spiritual life has taught me, is that it's not about emotions. Because we get caught up in our feelings and our emotions, and spiritual life is rough.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's, sacrifice, suffering. We talk about those fruits of the spirit, and if you think about it, peace, long suffering, all those things that are named, it has nothing to do with stuff.
Yeah.
Long suffering,
Right.
if you ask somebody, have you ever went through long suffering? So you think about the marriages that have lasted 50, 60 years, I'm sure they went through long suffering. And then you have to find and identify with each one of those things, and then you make them prevalent in your life. So when people look at you, they don't need to know where you go to church. They don't need to know. They should just see it because it says that you will know them by their fruit. So it should be how you present yourself. And so that's what I strive on. I strive on not trying to be perfect.
Right.
Not trying to be politically correct all the time, because I am not a perfect person.
Right.
But just being myself and being free and making decisions, and knowing that like what Chino said, there's a higher power. There's a God that will check us
Yeah.
and let us know, like, yeah, I'm right.
Right.
Or allow us to look at the man in the mirror and say, you know what, I was wrong for that.
Right.
Apologize when I need to apologize. Remain silent when I need to remain silent. Speak when I need to speak. Don't be so quick to get angry at things
Right.
and take things personal, even if it's valid. Because sometimes it's valid for us to
Right.
get angry and mad and
Yes.
upset.
Yeah.
But my spiritual relationship with God has allowed me to be able to pause, stop, and think about it. Because back in the day, I would just react.
Right.
And it's very hard for me sometimes to hear people say stuff like, you're a mean woman. But because I have that spiritual connection, it's hard. It stings. It hurts. But when people honestly give their perception of something you did or said, you have to be okay with that. And we have to be okay with being humble and saying, you know what? Nobody wants to feel like I gotta watch everything I say, or I gotta watch everything I do.
Right.
But at the same time, if we're trying to identify with that Christ nature, Jesus didn't ever argue with nobody in the Bible. He always just showed it, or he had his facts and his wisdom, and he said what he said, and that was it. But it was no attitude behind it, no grudge. It was just like, here's the information. Do what you're gonna do with it. I'm gonna go over here with my apostles, and we're gonna do our thing. That was it. That's how I look at it. And so it's simple to me. It's not so drawn out as people make it.
Well,
make it
the
big.
thing is, what I find in life, the more simple it is, the more complex it becomes. Because simple, people turn it into, make it just more dramatic, and they create the drama and the trauma. That's where it comes from. One of the things that you said I wanted to touch on definitely, you're going to school to be a therapist, because, in the Black community, we view mental illness as a weakness. They don't wanna go, and talk to therapists, counselors, and those things. That's probably some of some of the issues that we have going on now today is what we're suffering from. And then throw in the emotional piece. People have to learn to even if it's valid, you need to have control. It's valid that you should be upset, but that does not mean you have to go out and handle. So, I just wanted to mention that, too, so.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna go back a little bit. Just thinking about your chapter in the She Became Me book. What did that mean to you, She Became Me? What did that mean to you when you were first approached with the idea versus what does it mean to you now that you went through the process of putting your piece in the book?
At first, I was like, well, I ain't really all that. Like, what did I become? Like, I'm just this woman with a whole bunch of kids going to school and trying to, be a good citizen in the world. Like, I'm not Oprah, you know what I mean? Like, so at first it was kind of like, oh. But then as I started writing it, I started feeling more healing. Because I was like, oh, I could tell this story. And I remember when I was in my 20s and I would tell somebody what happened and it would always end with me crying, they crying. And it was just this big old pity party type situation. But now I felt like I gave my story with tenacity and confidence, and it had a grace on it. And so now I feel empowered. I feel She Became Me gave me power.
Because you became you, more and more you
Yes,
were you.
I understood that I had identity issues. I understood that my identity was taken, but when I wrote it, I identified with the woman that I really am.
Yes.
And I got to own it for once. And that's like spiritual connections.
Yes.
Because I know that was something you mentioned, we were gonna talk about spiritual connection.
Yes.
But I feel like this was a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
Like even what happened, Tina called me and how it happened. It was all spiritual.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Every last one of you
yes.
guys was-
I met her when my daughter was a sophomore in high school. She's now a sophomore in college. And I met her through her cousin, through her
Yeah.
Butterfly Effects group.
Yeah.
I just showed up to a
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Didn't even talk to her that much. We
Yeah.
connected on Facebook, nothing else after that.
Yeah.
And I wrote a post one day. And she saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And she called me. And that's spiritual.
Yes.
Because I was tugging on my spirit on whether or not I even should make this post. Because I'm like, I'm doing too much. I don't need to be doing this. I'm not a, motivational speaker. I'm not a, life coach, which now I know that I
Yes.
all those things, but that's what I was telling myself. This is not you. And I did it, and then here she comes. And I'm like, okay. And so I've had connections and things like that happen, but it was things that I didn't do on my own. And then I wasn't looking for to get on a book. I didn't make that post because I was looking for something. I made the post because I wanted to encourage and empower people. And that's what Paradigm Empowerment is all about. It's about empowerment. It's about spiritual coaching. Like, I don't put it on my website, but I've helped many people, especially women, who have connected with me and spent months calling me like a girlfriend.
Yes.
And I'm just giving them the nuggets that they need
Sorry.
and letting them release and almost doing what I would do as a therapist, but just doing it out of the bottom of my heart.
Yes.
And I will continue to do it that way. But then God opened the door for me to go back to school, and I'm just like, okay, I'll do it. But then I just keep telling, because everybody's like, well, what are you gonna do? I don't know.
Right. I say that a lot too. They say, what's next? I'm like, I don't know, I wait until it falls on my spirit, and then I just move.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works, and that's a good way to do it.
That piece with that book was very powerful. Even if it wasn't gonna be powerful for anybody else, it really, really put me in a different place and gave me a different look on forgiveness. I haven't had any contact with my father since I was 15, and really no contact with any of my side of that on his family. But recently, 2 years ago, my aunt, we found each other on Facebook, and we have connected, and she supports me, she follows me, and we get to talk a little bit, but that was a small door.
Right.
That it has opened up, that I was able to do that, and she's just happy that I'm okay.
Yes.
And for my father's sister to basically let me know that she was concerned about me, that did a lot, but it was because of the book, it was because of all these different things, and people were like, I didn't even know that happened to you.
Right.
And that goes back to what you were saying about the strength.
Yeah.
Like, one thing about me is I walk around and I know I look like strong. Like I got it together, I'm empowering, you know, my spirit, this and that, but my spiritual relationship is where I go when I'm just like, because I don't care how strong, Oprah has moments where she goes, you know, those ugly crying moments that you just want to be like,
Right.
because of who I am and what I represent in the public eye, I can't do that with everybody.
Right.
So it is in those spiritual moments where I'll be like, I have a lot of those moments.
Yeah, that's great. I just have one question, because you mentioned longevity in marriage, and your other book, Wait, Don't Throw in the Towel. And I will say that both chapters of both of our guests today made me cry. I mean, I became
Yes.
very emotional in reading both Patricia and Latina's chapters. And so, what advice would you give to a married couple that, or someone considering marriage, that may not yet be comfortable sharing all their stuff? You know, when I think about you becoming an overcomer of incest and considering spending, you know, how it may affect other relationships with males. And it could be on the other side, could be the male having endured some things and struggling with how to open up, you know, to their future spouse or spouse about it. What advice would you give? Because, you know, some couples go through counseling, some don't, you know, where things are uncovered and come out. What advice would you give?
For me, I would say just being transparent and being open before you get married. That was one of the things that I feel like I wasn't 100% open with my husband about. So later on, when I started having like severe PTSD and things like that, it was like for him, okay, I didn't sign up. Like, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
And so we had some riffraff. And then when I did come out and started to get healing, then I was like, well, you didn't sign up for this and neither did I, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get this towel and we go throw this in. And that's when the Lord was like, wait.
That's good.
That's where the title came from, because he was over it, I was over it. And then the Lord said, wait, and I was like, wait. And then he started showing me things. Marriage is really not about yourself.
Right.
It's about the other person. And so what God does in marriage, and that's how I see it, he takes the heart of your husband and he puts it in your hand. He takes your heart and puts it in your husband's hand. And he says, care for my daughter, care for my son. And so when you learn that, then it becomes, it's not, I don't say it was easier, but it's like it makes sense. Now I got a solution. God has told me something. Now I have to go with it. And each time I struggle with this heart that's in my hand, and this heart's getting on my nerve, and this heart is saying these things, and these hearts are pushing my button, and you have to go to God and say, listen, show me what I need to do with this heart, because this heart is doing some things.
Yeah.
And then you start praying, and then you tarry, and you sacrifice, and you suffer for that heart.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, you wake up to fulfill that person.
Yes.
And give them what they need, because their source is God.
Right.
But in a marriage, you're supposed to mimic the relationship that you have with God by yourself. So I tell single people, make sure your relationship is solid with God.
Right.
Because if your relationship is solid with God, you will know how to tend to your covenant.
That's right.
That's right.
Right. Oh, man, so I told you that you guys was gonna be in for, a treat, cause this woman was gonna break it down for you. So at this point, we wanna do, another, she meal right now. And again, remember, go to shebecameme2020@gmail.com, and maybe you will get your question read on the show. So we want to get a little perspective here on what's next. Okay. Do you think people, oh man, this is ironic that, what are we talking about? Pull it up, cause you talking about marriage, and guess what this is? Do you think people fall in love because the right person has arrived, or because the time is right, regardless of the person? I'm gonna read that again. Do you think people fall in love because the right person has arrived, or because the time is right, regardless of who the person is? Go ahead, Tina.
You know what?
Expert.
This is gonna sound funny or kind of weird, but I don't believe in falling in love. I believe that love takes a time. I believe that we're attracted to people.
Yeah.
And we need to know the difference between if we're actually attracted to the person or are we attracted to them physically. Like, what is it? Is it lust?
Right.
You know, it could be so many different things, and so you don't know right when you first meet them. If you want to know, pray.
Yeah.
If you want to know, don't fornicate. And that's not to put stipulations on people or rules, but there are certain reasons why God had ordained things to be a certain way, not to punish us, but to bless us.
Right.
And I didn't follow all of that.
Yeah.
And so then I had some rocky road
Right.
because I didn't follow that.
Yeah.
So if you want to know if it's true love, or you want to know if it's the right timing, if you want to know if it's the right person, pray.
Yeah. Well, I think that, if you sit around and say, I'm ready to get married, I'm just ready to get married, how you gonna get married without the right person? And what I mean the right person is, if God put that marriage together and he sends that right person in your life, and, we don't know what that timing is gonna look like. So to say you don't know you're ready until you're ready. So the answer to that question is that's the problem. People are just thinking they're following systems and customs and traditions and say, oh, I'm 30, I need to get married.
Correct.
This is what the system does, this is what traditions look like. So whoever come along that looks like they can fit into this little shape of what
Yes,
the world
correct.
says should fit, then I should do it.
Right.
So, I feel like if you just work on being single and being whole, and when you meet that person, you don't know you're gonna get married until you meet the person.
Yep.
You shouldn't know until that happens. So,
When you're confident in yourself, like you said, taking care of you, like I say this, I would say this if my husband was sitting right next to me, but if I had to do it all over again, I feel like I would still marry him, but it would have been different.
Yeah.
Things would have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
When you're sure of yourself, I
That's
didn't
right.
get sure of myself
Right.
until late in my marriage. We've
Right.
been together for 14 years, but I didn't get sure of myself until like
Right.
10 years ago.
Right, right.
So I was like, didn't even know who I was.
So sometimes the timing is not right.
Right.
Right, and everybody's time is
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And also, if you have, it's very important that because each one is an individual, so while God is working on the woman, he's also working on that man.
Yeah.
And so, we pray for a mate, and like you said, just making sure that it's just not the trend, I wanna be married because
Right.
everyone else around
Right,
me.
right.
But just being patient and waiting on God,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
a lot of times we pick and choose, and we have, those lists
Yeah.
that we write,
Yep.
and, so getting rid of that list and just waiting, for who God is gonna,
Send.
send for us.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of times we make that mistake too, I'm gonna fall in love and I will eat this, and I have this, and
Yeah.
and he'll turn around and send something totally different, and you have your face turned
Yeah.
up because that's not what you envision, because it's all visual.
Yep.
But he will intertwine the spirits and the hearts of the people.
Yes.
And so, and that's important,
Yeah, definitely.
too.
Oh, for me, it's just
Yeah.
a combination of both, the right person and the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Simply put, sometimes blessings come and you're over here fooling around and you can't even
Say it.
receive that. You know what I mean? So,
Say it, yeah.
that God might have sent that right person
Yeah, and you
to the
missed it.
right place and you was over here playing around and you missed it. So for me, it is a combination of
Yeah.
the right person and the right
Right.
time.
What you got, Yalonda?
I think God's timing is perfect.
That's
Yes.
right, amen.
Okay, guys, that's it for, this segment, and I'm so glad that you guys joined us and connected with us at the heart. So until next time, we'll see you.